After letting the American people see with their own eyes what the usurpers would do to our country once they had the power, Trump is now back in full force, wielding the only power that truly matters, the power delegated to him by we, the people. On today's show, we'll look at how Trump is using this power to take back control. Welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio. Trump was just here for a big rally. Exciting things, exciting show today. We're going to be going into a lot of different issues, but we first start by just greeting everyone, saying hello. Welcome to all you folks tuning in from around the world. I love seeing everyone joining from around the world. Thank you for coming. Thank you for continuing to support Man in America and the overall patriot movement to take our country back. Just a quick reminder, make sure you're subscribed. If you are subscribed to YouTube, just check again because YouTube has a tendency to unsubscribe folks. Make sure the notification box is checked. Again, they take that off as well. If you're not watching me on Rumble, where I'm also live, I recommend that for you folks that are still on CommieTube and CommieBook, Facebook, Google-owned platforms. Over on Rumble, they'll never cancel me. Trump now has an official account there as well, which we'll be getting into today. And if you're going to follow me on social media, I do recommend following me on Telegram. The link is below in the description. And just so you know, all of the content I'm covering today is also in the description below. So you can follow along if you'd like. Again, this is an exciting show. And it's interesting because I was going to be covering the new Delta variant and all the hogwash going on with that. But I thought, you know what? I was looking through the news. There's so much positivity around what Trump is doing. And there's so many signs that he's really stepping back into the limelight and that the people are truly supporting him and seeing through the current sham of a White House that's existing. So across the articles today, I'll be showing you the overall narrative, and this is the point that I'll make it now and I'll continue to make it throughout the show, is that in America, our country, it's our government, the country, it's the foundation, right? It's we the people, right? It's for the people, by the people. And regardless of what's happening at the DC level, regardless of what's happening with the theater of politics that I think a lot of us probably feel like we don't have a whole lot of control over because we really don't at that level. Regardless of those things, it's the hearts of the people that matter. And in my view, through my research, my feelings, just interacting with all of you every week, the hearts of the people are for Trump. Now, I'm not saying it's the whole nation. You go look on Facebook, which seems to be troll central on my videos. A lot of people, they love to hop on there and share their nasty opinions. And I've noticed two things, ironically, about the trolls on Facebook is most of them seem to have a icon around their picture that says, I've been vaccinated. They're proclaiming that, or they're wearing masks in their photos. Those seem to be the two traits I'm seeing with most trolls on Facebook. Coincidence? I don't know. Make up your mind. I'll make up my own mind. But what's really important, though, again, this is the point that I'm making here, is that it's we the people. And everything I'm showing you today, these are all signs that the vast majority of Americans, and I think really it's a lot of the people in the world, they look at Trump as the leader of the free people, as the leader of freedom globally. And not only do they look at him as the true leader of freedom, they look at the current administration as a train wreck. And we're gonna take a look at that too. So let's first jump. I'm not sure if you watched, but last night President Trump had a town hall with Sean Hannity in Texas. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but there's one thing I want to talk about there and show you there, a little video clip of Trump talking about 2024. So let me pull that up for you. Take a look at this.
We don't have a lot of time, but let's talk about your future plans. Now, I have a funny... Let me ask the crowd of everybody here, would you like to see the president run again in 2024? You're not going to answer, but I have to ask. Where are you in the process of, let me ask you this, without giving the answer what the answer is, have you made up your mind?
Yes.
There you go. I'm not sure how you can not watch that without a big grin on your face. As much as, look, Fox News, I think they've played a pretty negative role in a lot of ways, but I think there still are some patriots fighting to get the truth out there within Fox News. So it's not my regular, place I turn to, but if Trump is, if he's speaking, if he's having his town halls, then I'm watching. Now, I agree with a lot of the comments I'm seeing that we can't wait for 2024. And that's one of the big things is that the audits. If you watched my video earlier this week, it was all about the audits. There's a lot going to be coming out about that. If you didn't watch the video, I recommend you watch it. It was called TikTok. And no, not the Chinese communist-controlled app that all the young folks are wasting their time on, but the TikTok of the bomb, of the time bomb of what's happening out there. So obviously, we do know that we have to keep pushing for the audits, keep pushing within our own states for the audits, keep following what's happening in Arizona, because that's the key. That's what, and that's what Trump keeps talking about too. That's what Trump keeps pushing. We can't lose sight. We can't lose focus of what's happening with those audits. But what you do see, and actually it was early this morning, that the Supreme Court ruled on some of the voting laws in Arizona and stood by them and refused to cave in to a lot of the radical challenges to basically make it so that anybody can win in the election if you know the right people and you can pull the right strings. So the Supreme Court was stood up for that in the right way, even though they were a complete disappointment last year, in December last year, January this year. At least we're seeing some progress in the tightening up of the voter laws nationwide. Because again, if we can't fix what's just happened, I think that sometimes I feel like looking forward to 2024 is a little bit of a pipe dream because, well, if it's broken now, we can be able to fix it in the future if we can't even take a look at what's happening now. But again, that's what these audits are doing. And that gives me a lot of hope because I think there's some great things are going to be revealed there. Trump's talked about it. We've seen a lot of the things, information for some of the audit, folks that are working on the ground about how it's going to work. So again, keep the focus on the audits. Don't get distracted from them. So next thing I want to jump to though is Trump's rally in Ohio. And I told you it was 9 ways that Trump is taking back control. I threw a few extras in there. But again, as I mentioned before, we're looking at all these signs that Trump has the hearts and minds of the free people, that Trump has the support of the vast majority of the American people, that he is the person that we want to be our president. And you're seeing that he's exercising a lot of control, and he's just started. So let's take a look at his rally he just had out in Ohio. Now this, again, Fox, as much as they love having him on Hannity, they got to keep up their conservative followers on that show, yet they don't, air his rally, his first rally since the beginning of the year, since he's left office, the very first rally, Fox doesn't show it. Well, you know what, then other people will. So here's an article in the Gateway Pundit. We had, Trump's still king, and how Newsmax ratings toppled Fox News, CNN, MSNBC on Saturday with Trump rally coverage. So the Trump rally was a huge success. People are estimating 35, 40, 50,000 people that were in. But let's just take a look quickly on what Newsmax reported, saying that Donald Trump's supercharged return to the political stage over the weekend was a ratings smash for Newsmax, which trounced Fox News in key ratings. According to Nielsen, 1.9 million cable viewers tuned into Newsmax to watch the network's coverage of the former president's rally Saturday in Wellington, Ohio. They estimate another 1.3 million viewers watched through free streaming devices, bringing the viewership to over 3 million people watching just through Newsmax. Now, if you were following me around the time of Plot to Steal America and how I had recommended Newsmax, after Newsmax came out and they kind of really put out their stance on the election. In my opinion, they caved to the pressure. They didn't stand up for what was right at that time. So I lost a lot of my trust in their station. I think they're still having some good coverage. But at this point, if I'm looking for broadcasting, I'm looking at RSBN, Right Side Broadcasting Network, NTD TV, another one I'm looking for broadcasting, and OAN, of course, as well. But let's take a look at what happened with RSBN, who I think is the really up and coming. I think these guys are doing a fantastic job. So an RSBN article here. So they had nearly 5 million viewers tuned in to Trump's Ohio rally, right? So 5 million viewers, this is important because look at how the landscape is shifting. Okay. It used to be Fox. Think about this. Think about election night. I think the majority of people were watching Fox. I happened to pull up Newsmax at that time and it was a new thing to me because I wanted to see, because I felt like Fox was just a little bit of depressing train wreck with Chris Wallace and all those folks on there. But think of how much the media landscape has shifted, where now we just passed Trump's rally on Saturday. We have Newsmax was, Fox didn't even show it. Newsmax was showing it with 3 million people, yet RSBN has 5 million people tuning in. Incredible. So just really quickly here, I'll just highlight a few things from RSBN. So one, they say that while tens of thousands of supporters traveled from all over the country to see Trump in person, millions of fans tuned in online across RSBN's platform. On YouTube alone, RSBN saw a grand total of 2.3 million viewers, and 1.4 million watched on Facebook, and approximately 1.1 million watched on Rumble. So that's about 5 million people, right? Joe Biden does a press conference. He gets 6 people, and they're all people that work for him that watch. And he has 6 people watching, and he somehow gets 1,000 dislikes, which we're going to go into that in this episode. So another quote, this is fantastic. Here they shared a quote from President Trump where he said, "Together we will send Joe Biden and the fake news media and all the people who are bad to our country like big tech tyrants a message they can never censor, cancel, or ignore. We will take back the House, we will take back the Senate, and we will take back America soon." What an amazing message that Trump shared with folks at that rally. Absolutely incredible. Now, for those of you who have followed the White House YouTube saga, which is very interesting because we saw that when Trump was in the White House, you go and you look and you can see he puts out a video, he gets 3 million, 5 million views, he gets 60,000 likes and maybe 5,000 dislikes. Right? You could see that was the true representative. You could see that he was truly representing the will of the people. If you look at how his views were happening, or the amount of interaction and engagement he was getting. And if you recall, and this was kind of funny watching this unfold, once Joe Biden took over the White House and the White House YouTube channel, you see a few things. One is that no one's really watching, even on his live broadcast. The same thing that Trump would have gotten millions of viewers tuning in. You'd had, old creepy Joe with, 3,000 people watching. But if you look at the like and dislike ratio, it's like, did this guy really get that many votes? Was he really? Is that, are you telling me that this is true? Yet we look at YouTube and you can see the truth of that. So what we saw happen is they started changing them. They started adjusting them. And I noticed it too. I'd pull up a Joe Biden White House video and he'd have 10,000 dislikes, 2,500 likes, and I'd refresh, and then all of a sudden there's 5,000 likes and 3,000 dislikes. That's strange. So I have a website to share with you, which you're really going to love this. Okay, so this website is called 81m.org, right? 81m.org, right? So it seems like the folks in charge really like to change votes, don't they? So what this website does, I'm going to make this full size for you so you can follow along. So what this website is doing is they have a way through their algorithms of tracking. I'll make myself disappear so you can see more on the stage or on the site. They are tracking what the real votes were. All right. And if you have friends, again, if you have friends that are Joe Biden supporters, share this with them. Say, hey, just so you know, this is the real information. So this already shows right now how this is big tech changing, lying, censoring, to change the narrative. This is no better example of that. So what this website does, 81m.org, right? You go and it shows you, like, let's look at this. Let's look at the top video, for instance, right? The press briefing. I went back in February because that's what I was looking at. So let's look back at this. A press briefing by the White House on COVID in February. So it had 60,000 views. Now, what it says here is it says the official approval rate was 9.32%. If you follow that, I'm not sure if I can highlight that for you. Yeah, so official approval rating was 9.23% or 3.2%, saying that there's 453 likes, 4,400 dislikes. The real approval rating was 2.4%. So before YouTube changed it, because they tracked this, before it was modified to lie, there were actually 453 likes and 18,000 dislikes. So there's a manipulation rate. If you look over here, there's a manipulation rate of 309%, right? 309%. And if this is too small for you because you're on an iPhone, just again on your own, when you're on your own time on a desktop, go to 81m.org, which is also linked below. Another example, let's go down here to a different video. Okay, here was a video about Vice President Harris ceremonially swears in Alejandro Mayorkas as Secretary of Homeland Security. Had 66,000 views. The official approval rating was 27%, right? So that if you look on YouTube, it was saying there were only 1,800 dislikes. Now, the real approval rating is that they're showing there were 22,000 dislikes. So the manipulation amount, they say, was 1,097%. All right, so again, 81m.org, share that with your friends, share it with your family, because again, what have we seen play out in the past 18 months, especially around the election, around the pandemic, is that we're seeing that big tech is doing everything it can to control the narrative, to control the public opinion, the public thought of what's happening. But the thing is that we, the people, are still speaking up. We're going and we're watching these videos. We're saying, like or dislike. So the 81m.org is showing us and showing the actual proof. And on the website, you can go and they show you how they do it. They show you, exactly the algorithms and the methods that they use to find that real information. So to me, it's just comical. It's comical. It's like, is this really the guy that got 81 million votes? And they're having to skew the facts and skew the reality by 1,000%. So again, I think it's laughable. But what this shows you, and this is how they've been able to, I think, dishearten so many of us and really gain a lot of control, is through it's the sheep mentality, through trying to control the masses through groupthink. They've really done a good job at making the conservatives think that they truly are the minority, right? Even the term silent majority came from them, right? Because it's almost like they're silencing the majority to make us feel like we're the minority, because they have control of the megaphones. Mainstream media, big tech. If you go on the Twitter it's so bad. You see folks like Matt Walsh, or folks like Jason Miller, they're posting on there. And then you look at the top 30 responses are all angry liberals. It's incredible. It makes you think that everyone on Twitter, which is, you might think that it's reflective over the overall population, are liberal, conservative hating folks. But again, big tech, look at YouTube, right? We can see they're skewing the results by 1,000%. Do you think that might be happening on YouTube? Might be on Facebook, on Twitter? Absolutely. So again, just take a look at that, share that, and you can see that's the real truth, because we know what people really believe. And again, it's the trolls that have the loud voices. They want you to think that they are the ones that are the majority, but they're actually not. They're really not. So let's go on to the next thing to pull up. And this is interesting, right? Now, this is a very interesting article I want to show, because again, this shows that there are cracks forming in their narrative and that people are seeing through. And Politico, who is in the past has completely been weaponized against the Trump team, against the Trump campaign, against conservatives. Even Politico is reporting on this. And this is one of the points I want to make too, is that what's also happening is that the mainstream media is losing its control over their ability to hide the blundering fools in the White House. They're no longer able to hide this from people. So even more people are seeing it. And if you see these people posting on social media saying, oh, Biden is the greatest president, and it's like, where do you get your information from? Are you serious? Have you seen what's happened in the last 6 months? But if you look at Politico here, this is an article covering, read this headline, not a healthy environment. Kamala Harris's office rife with dissent. So what does it mean if Politico is now covering things that are revealing how fractured and just terrible the regime is? So I'm going to read just a little bit of the intro here, and just to share with you what they wrote, because imagine, again, this is Politico. So saying that when Vice President Kamala Harris finally made the decision to visit the Mexican border last week, people inside her own office were blindsided by the news given by the cackling hyena. I added cackling hyena. That was my little addition there. For days, aides and outside allies had been calling and texting with each other about the political fallout that a potential trip would entail. But when it became known that she was going to El Paso, it left many scrambling, including officials who were responsible for making travel arrangements and others outside the VP's office, charged with crafting the message across the administration. The handling of the border visit was the latest chaotic moment for a staff that's quickly becoming mired in them. Again, this article sounds like something that Breitbart put up, right? The handling of the visit was the latest chaotic moment for a staff that's quickly becoming mired in them. Harris's team is experiencing low morale, porous lines of communication, and diminished trust among aides and senior officials. Much of the frustration internally is directed at Tina Flournoy, Harris's chief of staff, a veteran of Democratic politics who began working for her earlier this year. So they interviewed 22 current and former VP aides, administration officials, and associates, and it was unanimous that it is a terrible atmosphere, right? So again, this is something that's just interesting to look at. Not only, I think that this is reflective of what we would imagine. If you watch her laughing at the border comments, and you look at her, just how she presents herself, and always standing over Biden's shoulder, making sure he's not doing anything wrong, like a kid watching a 3-year-old who's putting pudding in his diaper or something. If you watch how she's acting, this is what you'd expect. But the fact that the Politico, a very, very much more biased towards liberal, is covering this. It's interesting. Tides are turning. There's a shift happening in this. So jumping on to the next article to throw out to you. Again, now you probably saw this around the rally, but this is Trump, again, coming back into the light, coming back into the foray now here. So what we see here, so this is Washington Times, that Trump joins video platform Rumble that competes with Google's YouTube. Now, just a quick note, I've seen a lot of folks that have talked about how Trump is on Telegram, Trump is on Gab. Look, I've looked into this heavily, and Trump is only on one platform right now. It's Rumble. It is the only platform that Trump has an official account on. Someone even commented on, I think, one of the videos. They said, "Oh no, Trump is on Telegram. I follow him. He posts all the time." Well, you also see posts on there for My Pillow. So sorry, but Trump is not going to be posting My Pillow ads on his social media accounts where he's getting affiliate money from people that click on those links. So again, Trump is only on Rumble. He's not on the other platforms. Currently, I can say that for the most part, I do trust Rumble. I'm suspicious about certain things, but I do trust Rumble at this point. I'm not seeing any censorship happening there. Okay, so what they say here is that, in the article, briefly I'll read this, that President Trump joining the video platform Rumble marked the beginning of his digital return after bans against his account have restricted his access on Facebook, Twitter, and Google on YouTube. Again, so here they're also confirming it, that this is the beginning of his digital return. So he's not on Telegram, he's not on Gab, etc. So in joining Rumble, a YouTube rival, Mr. Trump is attempting to redefine his social media persona from that of an outcast muzzled into silence by the rich or by the tech giants to that of a defiant outsider challenging the status quo. Now, again, this is big because this is now he's stepping back out. And he told us too, right? Trump told us earlier on, if you were watching some of his statements are coming out from the desk of Donald Trump, which he does not have currently because he's working on his new social media, which we'll get to next. He told us, though, that he was purposefully going to be silent. He was purposefully going to be quiet and allow people to see what would unfold with this new administration. And sometimes you can't tell people, you have to show people. As much as you might say, hey, I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this. You have to let people see it with their own eyes. And so that's what he did. So he allowed people to see the truth. And so, but now I think it's gone long enough. The country's, burning to the ground. The southern border is a train wreck, and, gas prices have gone up. I'm not going to get into all that, inflation, et cetera. But he's allowed us to see, but now he's stepping back out. And that's the overall theme of this video, is that he is now coming back out. He's now stepping forward back into the limelight. And as I've talked about before, but I'll share with you again, as a quick part about that, he's very close to launching his own social media platform, right? So again, here's an article, this is 2 days ago, about a new social media platform as Trump's answer to big tech censorship. Okay, so here we have, Jason Miller, who has recently resigned from his position directly with Trump in communication. He's now heading up the new social media platform. Okay, so in here, if you follow Jason Miller on Twitter, which I do, that's the best place to get the information about what's happening with the new platform. So I'll share what Trump had said about this. But so Jason Miller, he's been tweeting June 25th. He says, new social media platform coming soon. DM me to have your handle reserved. He's already set aside Crooked for you-know-who. Fun. Now, down below, though, this is something that Trump had said. Miller said something very cool is in the way. Then Trump had said, this was last week. Trump put the statement out. Said, watch next week because you will see me do something about big tech. And people have wanted me to do it a long time. And it won't be too surprising, Trump continued. They don't love me to talk about it early, but watch what I do next week on big tech. I think you'll find it very interesting. So could he have been referring to joining Rumble? Perhaps, but I suspect not. I think that in the way he was talking about this, something bigger is coming out. Something bigger is going to be happening, which if you line that up with what Jason Miller has said thus far about the timing of his platform, I think that we can see that I would think that we're going to see something within this week. And if not within the next couple of weeks, that we're going to see something coming out about the launch of Trump's new social media platform, which that becomes a game changer because as we've talked about before, this is an information war, right? This is what's happening right now. It's it's a war of who can get the right information, and the enemies they've controlled the media, they've controlled big tech. All of the megaphones, which that's what we've seen happening, all the conservatives being silenced, being deplatformed, et cetera. So, Trump coming out and launching his own social media platform, in my opinion, that is way more important even than him releasing, say, a media company. Because regardless of what your media company is, it's actually the social media platforms that allow the spread of the information. Right. So what happens I had someone that shared with me that they shared my McAfee video on Facebook and they got banned from Facebook for 30 days for sharing a video that I did about John McAfee. Right. That's the control of big tech. Right. So even if you have media, which we have media, look at the Epoch Times, look at Breitbart, there's so many media that are still trying to get the truth out there. But again, if the social media platforms are censoring and not allowing you to even share the information, that's what's critical. So in my opinion, Trump launching his own social media platform is one of the most important things that could be happening at this time. And of course he knows that. So that's what he was targeting. So again, to me, this is exciting. Yes, Sandy Brown, I was banned for 60 days. She was banned for 60 days for sharing things, which is, it's incredible. It's incredible the gall that they have. But they've been able to do that because they've had monopoly. They've owned all the big tech. They've been owned by the same characters that are all conspiring, working together with the Chinese Communist Party, working together with the Democratic media complex to keep one central narrative happening. But now this is changing. Again, President Trump doing it. And so something interesting that I wanted to talk about here was not only this, but as I mentioned before, that the media, they're losing their ability to keep Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, to keep their gaffes and to keep their bumbling, kind of embarrassing actions out of the eyes of the general people, which they fought to cover this up for so long. But I'm not sure if you saw the recent video of Biden whispering, right? So here we've got the New York Post article. As Biden bumbles, the question is who's really running the country. Now, I'm not sure if you had seen this, but this was creepy. I don't know. There's your picture of Biden. I don't even like looking at that guy. But if you saw the video of Biden whispering, I got them, the checks, creepy stuff. But this is what's interesting is that they're losing their ability to basically to censor, because the mainstream media, big tech, there's two things that they can do. So I'm just going to pull that face. I can't keep looking at him. I'm sorry for showing you that. I know it's offensive. They're losing their ability to censor two things. One is that they're censoring the truth. They're censoring what Trump is telling people. They're censoring information about what happened in November last year, censoring information about the pandemic, etc. Right? But the other thing is that they can no longer censor and keep people from seeing the real actions of Sniffy Joe. They can no longer keep some people. So people are seeing this now. People are now able to watch this. I mean, those videos went viral of creepy, senile Joe. Thank you for all the great comments I see you guys folks are posting. Give me some great ones here. Or, it's a, Pudding Brain, the President Pudding Brain. They can no longer keep this from the people. So for folks that did vote for him, which, look, this is America. It's a free country. Vote for who you want to, but at least know who you're voting for. And if they're only showing people this great side of somebody, then of course it's going to be harder for people to understand what's true. But now they're seeing it because if you look, I think a lot of people that probably even voted for him are seeing these creepy videos of him, whether he's whispering to folks, whether he's snapping at reporters, or even commenting on underage girls in the audience. Again, some weird stuff going on, but people are seeing through this. Again, their narrative is collapsing. They're losing control, and they're freaking out over it, but fundamentally they're losing control. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing I want to cover. And again, this is a much larger thing, but again, I was talking about how Trump is taking back control. This is a Financial Times article about Trump's return to the political stage has Republicans jostling, which is exactly it. Trump is coming out, and through his endorsements, which are happening, quite often now, but through his endorsements, he's now helping the whole world understand who the America First politicians are. So he's saying, so he's showing the American people who the real politicians are. Like in Ohio, for instance, we've got a complete rhino as a governor who didn't show up for Trump's rally. Last time Trump came in here, he had COVID for one day, right? This is, DeWine. So what's happening now is that, President Trump is showing the American people who to vote for, because what we saw happen, which again, if you saw it happen around January 6th and seeing how everyone stood on that, is that we're seeing all the rhinos that turn their backs on Trump. Almost all of them, even our own vice president, completely turned his back on Trump. And so now what Trump is doing is that, again, as we talked at the beginning, it's we the people, a government for the people and by the people. So he's showing everybody, he's showing the American voters who to vote for, how to get rid of these rhinos. And the Republican Party, the GOP, is freaking out over it because he's exposing him, right? Because like everyone knows that Mitt Romney was a rhino, but did you know Pence was? Did you know some of these other folks are that he's calling out? So again, this is significant though, because Trump did not have the ability to do this going into 2016 when he was took presidency at the beginning of his term. He had so little support from all the rhinos, but no one knew who they were. And it really took about 4 years for us to really understand who the real rhinos were. But now he's campaigning to expose them. So what we have happening is we have, Trump is like speaking very bluntly about who to vote for, who the rhinos are, but he's also helping push. And what we're seeing is a lot of states are strengthening a lot of their voting laws. So look, I think a lot of stuff happened in 2020, in November, as we've talked about before. I can't go too much into it, but what we know is that they're across a lot of states, they're really strengthening a lot of their voting laws. They're making a lot of those the loopholes that were used. They're closing those loopholes, and they're giving us the ability to, I think, properly vote for folks to get the right people in office. So again, realistically, he's almost single-handedly purging the rhinos from the Republican Party. Okay. Next article we'll jump to, again, we have not just the rhinos, but here he is. If you saw some of the statements about General Miley, which I believe is Miley or Milley, either way, it doesn't matter. This guy is a complete fraud. But now Trump is coming out. He's speaking out. He's coming out and speaking out and saying, look, this guy is destroying our military. Like, he should resign. So this is some strong letters saying, this is a statement from President Trump coming out saying that General Milley ought to resign and be replaced with someone who is actually willing to defend our military from the leftist radicals who hate our country and our flag. All right. And so he's calling out the rhinos. He's calling out the people in the military that are not standing up for our country, because he knows that this is a country of it's the people that make these decisions. And so what he's doing, he's showing all of us. And as much as the mainstream media, the big tech are trying to censor that narrative, he's bypassing it, right? As we had that comment that he made in his speech, right? We're going to be bypassing all this censorship and getting the truth out. So again, Trump, he's really, really taking control. He's really stepping back into the limelight of things. And then I'm sure that everyone had seen, right, is that we also had what happened with with Kamala visiting the border, right, where the disaster of the border everyone has seen, but it was Trump calling her out and going down there himself that has made her rush. And as we saw in the article by Politico, right, that her reaction to Trump and her having to quickly turn around and rush down to the border caused all kinds of issues for her, within her team. And again, Trump is showing the people. He's showing the people what's really happening here. So he calls her out. She rushes off to the border. So what's happening is you see that even his actions, through his power, he's changing and affecting the actions that Kamala Harris and Biden are having to take. So who's in control here, right? So he's really forcing their hand on things, which is really, really important. But what's interesting is that if you look at, when Trump went down to Texas, okay, I'll show you a quick video. This is Trump's greeting when he shows up to Texas. Look at this. Cars and cars and cars waiting for President Trump. Now, that's something that Dan Scavino had shared on his Twitter page. Let me jump back to me here. So again, now, if you recall what happened when Kamala is traveling, I'm not sure if you remember when Kamala went down to Guatemala, right, where we had Newsweek coverage of this saying, protesters in Guatemala meet Kamala Harris with Trump won signs. So you have Trump traveling somewhere, and you get a whole line of cars with Trump supporters and flags and everything, the people coming out, right? Kamala visits somewhere. She's met with this. She goes to, this is in, I'll make this full screen so you can see it. This is down in, she visits Guatemala, and she's got people with greeting her with signs. So Kamala Harris greeted in Guatemala with "Go home" and Trump won messages. Right. So again, these are all signs of the people, the deep state. They're losing their control. How they won before was that they had control over our minds. That's what they've always been fighting for, right? They've always been fighting for control over our minds. That's what's allowed them to stay in power, is that they've controlled us through the media, through Hollywood. And look, I'm one of them. I'm the people, I didn't see the truth. I was just going along with things. I turned the TV on to say, hey, okay, that's what's real. Just going about my days, right? Just, being, I think, just completely brainwashed, because it's just, almost from childhood, from birth, they've had control of this. But again, with Trump coming in, which was not part of their plan in 2016, it was not part of their plan to have him in office. Their plan was to have Hillary in. But Trump got in, and that, like, him getting in was so significant, because that, you talk about the Great Awakening, him getting in is what kicked off. It started that. That's what kicked off this giant movement of seeing through the fake news, seeing through the mainstream media. And so many folks are now waking up. And the thing is that once you wake up from sleep and you see the dream for what it was, you don't go back to that. So all the folks in the last 4 years that have seen the truth, they're not going back to being, voting blue, right? They're seeing through this. They're not going back to that. So this is what's happening. And so they're turning away. They're unplugging. It's like on the Matrix, and they unplug the thing from the back of their heads, right? And that's what's happening. So people are waking up, and that's what they're fearing, because people actually have the power in this country. Not all countries do, but that's, the Constitution, the founding fathers, they saw this. They established our country to put the power in the people's hands, and people are now realizing it, right? And that's why they had to keep us so deluded, because in other countries, say in communist China, they don't care if you see through the lie, because if you go out and protest it, you end up in a black jail. Okay, which is kind of happening a little bit, with January 6th, but by and large, America is a place where we have the First Amendment. We have freedom of speech. Even though it's being attacked and censored, we still have that. So this is what's happening, though, because the folks, not only in America, but around the world, are waking up. And so look at the things like, Epstein and these topics that, would have been, these were tinfoil hat conspiracies a few years ago for most people. But now, like, we're seeing through it. And not only seeing through it, but we're standing up, right? And so even, Trump now, he's publishing op-eds. He's publishing a very good op-ed about critical race theory, encouraging parents to go out and fight for their children, to go fight against the critical race theory in their school, go to their school board meetings. So, people are standing up. They're taking control. They're getting involved in politics. They're doing all the things that the deep state has completely feared the people doing. That's why they had to keep us really masked and muzzled. They had to keep us completely blinded and deluded through their narratives, through Hollywood, through celebrities, but they're losing control of that. And as a great indicator of that, I'll pull up, something interesting, and I'm sure you've seen this happen, in the news as well, right? That ratings free fall. Now, CNN's Brian Stelter lost 72% of viewers in 2021. 72%. We're seeing this. The majority of people, they're turning off these media. And actually, what's interesting is that it's not just CNN. People are turning away from Fox even, right? Well, we see, we looked at the rally coverage, 5 million people watching through RSBN. So people are turning to these alternative media channels to get their information. So yeah, Stetler does look like the Joker. But anyway, so the ratings of CNN's reliable sources plunged to their lowest level of the year this weekend, even as host Brian Stetler continues to dedicate every episode to criticizing the credibility of Fox News. In all, his show has lost 72% of its viewers since its high point on January 10th. 72%. So again, this is, you look at the YouTube, as I showed you, 81m.org. You look at what's really happening on the YouTube channels. You look at what's really happening when Trump goes somewhere. You get lines of people standing up with, Trump flags and, out to support him. Look at what happens when, Hyena Harris goes somewhere. She gets people protesting. Even in foreign countries, they're protesting and saying, hey, we know what happened. We know that, who really won. So again, what we're seeing here, the overall narrative, the overall storyline that I see unfolding is that people are waking up. People are seeing through the truth. People are turning away from all the apparatuses of control, Hollywood, mainstream media, etc., and they're standing up. But I also think that there's so many people that are actually, that through this process, are finding God. They're returning to their roots. They're returning to their faith. They're strengthening their family. So the great things actually are happening. As much as it seems like our whole world is going to hell in a handbasket sometimes, great things are actually happening. And I'm not going to say that everything good relies on Trump. And that's an important thing I think that's happened over the past 6 months especially, is that we've had to realize that as patriots, it's on us. It's on every individual. We can't sit back and wait for someone to come in and fix it. I think that's where I think a lot of people were, especially heading into 2016. So many people just were waiting and they wanted Trump to fix everything. But it's our problem. For those of us that got complacent, we stopped paying attention to what our schools are teaching our children. We stopped, going to church, etc. It's our problem that our country is in this state. So Trump is helping; he's leading the charge. But fundamentally, though, it's we the people that have to take things back again. So to finish on a little bit more of a comedic note in response to the ratings free fall. If you know, I watch, I love the Babylon Bee. So what Brian Stetler is doing, though, in response to this free fall of ratings, I'll pull up this Babylon Bee. I'll make this full screen so you can see this. So desperate for ratings boost, Brian Stetler dons orange wig. Again, this is satire for those of you who aren't familiar with Babylon Bee. So New York City, with ratings for Brian Stetler's hit CNN show Reliable Sources continuing to nosedive in the Biden era, the award-winning and much-beloved TV host has had to consider new and innovative ways of reeling viewers back in. Starting this week, Stetler will don a giant orange wig during his broadcasts. Fox News, just terrible, horrible, fake news, I say. Maybe the worst fake news ever next to OAN and Newsmax. You ever see them? Worst news channels in America, maybe ever, said Stetler in today's broadcast with wild hand motions that seem familiar somehow. I won't go on to read that, but again, hilarious. Yeah, I love Babylon Bee. Absolutely funny. And again, this is true. I mean, the thing is that since Trump's left, the media have been just nosediving with CNN being the worst. And it's actually not that far from the truth that I can imagine him coming on here. And it's like, what do you call them? The Idaho gold potatoes, the gold potatoes, where here you go, here's your Idaho gold, Mr. Potato Head. So anyway, Stelter. Yeah, sorry, not Stetler, Stelter. So Brian Stelter. So that's, I'm going to wrap up now. But thank you everyone that's watched. I apologize. I've seen a few comments about an audio issue, something happening with the clicking. I'm not able to fix it live. It may seem like a surprise, but this is a one-man showdown here. When I'm operating this, I've got my little keypad, everything here. So I'm running these solo. So it's hard for me to address some of the issues like that pop up during the show. But I apologize. Hopefully you can still hear me properly, which seems like most of you could. But again, as we're wrapping up, the overall theme that I see happening here is that patriots are winning, and fundamentally, I think God is winning. I think Satan's had control over this world for far too long, and the good people are standing up again, taking back control. And again, there are so many reasons for us to have hope. Trump is coming in. He's stepping back up. Social media is coming out soon. People are seeing through the illusion. That's most important. People are seeing through the illusion. They're waking up. They're turning back to God. And you're helping. Everything that you do you're helping as well. So thank you everybody for all the support. Thank you for continuing to show up and watch. Actually, the live shows are growing substantially. McAfee's reaching 50,000 views, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for all of you that are helping to share this channel and coming and watching live. It's the highlight of my week when I sit down here and I interact with you folks. So remember, have a great weekend. Like and share the video, subscribe. Check me out at maninamerica.com. And just thank you so much for coming. Keep your head up, keep your faith strong. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next Tuesday at noon. God bless. Take care.